I'm making sure I don't make any of the mistakes I usually do. TrueAnon, twitch.tv, TrueAnon. I believe we are going. Although, who can really know? Matt, hello.
Hello.
We are. What's up, Matt?
Hello. Greetings from the plague zone.
Yeah, how is it out there? Is it like...
Greetings from Interzone.
How is it out there? Is it,
It's buttoned up. It's buttoned up like a penguin's keister.
Let me ask you.
Nobody is doing anything.
Are there any it girls about right now?
Everyone is doing TikToks and OnlyFans in their apartments. No one is really utilizing all of this newly available open space. Everyone has internalized the fear. At least it seems to me. It's very hard for me to tell because I also have internalized the fear and mostly stay indoors.
Once I found out there was 3 cases.
Have you gone out at all?
I mean, I go out. I will go out. I go to the park and stuff. But if it's nice out, I kind of have to, or I'll go insane. But like, I'm not. I'll take a car ride out somewhere, walk around, but it's just minimal, like leg stretching stuff. I have not been really, testing the boundaries of anything because nobody else is. Basically, it's like, what am I going to do by myself that's interesting if everybody else is buttoned up? You know what I mean?
I think I'd like to go to a speakeasy.
See, that's the thing. Like, I would like to go to a little party of people who I know and have been, like, I know a lot of people. They're responsible adults. They have been following the rules. I would feel comfortable like going to somebody's house in a gathering with people I know. But I don't think anyone else that I know feels that way. So I guess I'm stuck here in my Intera chamber.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like desperate to hang out with people.
Yeah.
This is bad news for us who like taking people to second locations. Because now the first location itself it's denied to us, and so it's been a little tough. But yeah, I went to the beach yesterday, very briefly, because it was kind of late, and there was just like a ton of people hanging out. That is okay. The beach is near my house. Everyone was pretty distant from each other, but the beach down in Pacifica, there were apparently like 150 people cited the other day and fined for being more than 5 miles from their house. Difficult.
I don't think I've been more than that. I don't think so. I haven't been out of. I briefly drove into Westchester County, but turned around.
Whoa.
Without getting out of the car. Yeah. And so I'll use it to like it's like a hand-me-down, and I will just use it to get away from my neighborhoods once in a while.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be fun to drive around in the city right now.
It's scary. I tried to drive into Manhattan late at night, and the only cars out are cop cars, and they're just crawling. And I honestly, even though I was driving and it's legal, like barefoot, I still got just terrified. I was like, are they just going to pull me over at any point just because they have nothing else to do and I'm out there when I shouldn't be? So I ended up going back. It was like just the oppressive emptiness of it, and the police being the only like public element is very. It's just like it's designed to keep you from there. So they're doing a good job in just creating a physical space that is just denying people by virtue of its unpleasantness and its association with control and isolation.
Yeah, it does give you sort of a glimpse into what like a possible future is, because there are no cars out here either. Like the other day on one of the busiest streets normally in my neighborhood, there was maybe 4 cars that I could see in fucking like my entire eyesight range. And then besides that, just cops. I mean, I take a walk every day. I didn't take a walk today because I've been looking at 5G articles, but there are almost always just cops basically in my neighborhood. There's a lot of homeless people here too, so there's usually a lot of police officers, but there was like a sort of absurd amount lately.
Did you go down? Have you been down to the Mission in a bit?
Not since we recorded. I drove down 24th Street like a month ago, and it looked totally normal. I will say the Mission, like basically, as of like a month ago, nobody that I could see in the Mission was doing quarantine.
Really?
Like, yeah. I guess the big problem here is that like a ton of people just like don't care about it there, which is it's all right. I mean, I will say there's only been 20 deaths in San Francisco, so maybe they're onto something. I don't know.
Yeah, like there is the fact that New York is the epicenter does create this warping effect, the way that East Coast media bias does around anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. People are probably processing it at rates that are disproportionate to their local situation, just by virtue of that. I mean, that's why for like a week people were trying to convince themselves that Andrew Cuomo could hit their back walls, even though he was presiding over a giant
just total disaster.
abattoir, an open air death carnival.
It's insane. It's California so far has had 1,600 deaths, and New York has had like 20 something, like 25,000.
Yeah, like 7 or 8 9/11s. I've lost track at this time.
And you can't even say it's because of the density, because New Yorkers always love being like, but I got all these fucking, I live in a brownstone, I'm in the walk-up. When it's like, motherfucker, they're concentrated in like Long Island.
Yeah.
No,
the whole thing is botched hilariously.
It's gonna it's gonna spread through the country. That's my theory. Is it's gonna go from it's when it moves into the middle of the country, which will be like July. My intuition tells me July, September. It's gonna be a weird time.
Oh yeah.
That's my lady intuition tells me. Also, because there's food shortages coming up.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about this?
Supply change. Well,
All the meat plants are closed.
really.
Are they gonna give us the bugs instead? Are we going to get the
No, a lot of meat packing plants have had to close because they had massive outbreaks.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Soil.
like, there's going to be total, like, pork shortages. There's chicken shortages that will be hitting. But it'll probably start seeing it as they start rationing stuff out, like, through the summer. It's going to get weird.
They're just going to have oil tankers full of Soylent pull up. And you're gonna come out.
People down.
Yeah, they're hosing people down with Soylent. You come out of your house with like a dog bowl or a gallon jug, and you just get as much Soylent as you can carry back to your hovel.
It'll be like those the trucks they use for concrete, where they have to keep it moving.
No, you got to keep
it's
that
just
stuff moving, or it's
sitting Soylent.
Yeah, just spewing Soylent out.
My friend did that for a bit.
Just the Soylent?
Yeah, tried it.
Like every meal?
2 meals a day. Yeah.
Is that
just like, it was kind of nice not to think about it. And I was like,
dude, no, fuck that.
That's
because
what I said.
my friend Reeves was trying that for a second. And Reeves gave me like a box of Soylent when I was working at Anchor. And I was like, okay, I'll just do a day where I just have 2 of these and then eat dinner. And it was like nothing. I was just like, it was like drinking a juice or something.
It's Slim Fast.
It was Slim Fast. I was just still.
You're the only old enough man on earth to remember the commercials.
They still sell Slim Fast. They still sell it.
Yes. A shake for breakfast, a shake for lunch, and a sensible dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Soylent actually has like real stuff in it. Like Slim Fast is kind of like jokey, I think. I think Soylent does have like, complete whatever minerals and all that.
I would like to know, one, how long anyone has gone on a only Soylent diet, and 2, where on the spectrum are they? Those are the 2 things I want to know, because it just doesn't seem like a thing a regular person could do without going insane.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the impulse to be like, I want to make my life. First of all, I don't understand the impulse to even say I want to make my life more efficient. I'm just like, I don't understand that. But then also to say, in order to do that, I want to get rid of food. It's like, what else are you doing? Literally, the only thing one of my only favorite things to do is eat food.
This machinery is turning us into machines. That's the goal of it. And these are the people who are like, that's good. I like being a machine.
Yeah.
I want fewer things in my life to think about, even though thinking about things is what makes you a human being. Thinking about the food you eat is part of being a human. It's like that's what builds your humanity. And everything you don't think about is another thing that becomes mechanistic. And another degree to which you become a machine.
Well, it's you see.
Well, we already think of ourselves that way. Like everyone already conceives of themselves as like, how do I optimize myself in order to have the right X, Y, and Z for LinkedIn so that I'm the right person to get this. You know what I mean? Like the way we manage our lives.
Yeah.
And even think about self-improvement is in this this way of like optimization as if we are
turning us to machines, because the forces are pressing us towards becoming machines and becoming totally denatured. And some people are wired in such a way through experience and through biology to be like, yes, machine, please. I will take that spot. I watch The Matrix and I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Put me in the pot.
Well, so what you can hear it basically in the contempt that these people have in their voices when they talk about like lunch or something, when they talk about dinner, and you can see the direct track, because now it goes from like, oh yeah, you make your lunch, you bring it to work, you eat it at work, to actually, check this out, you just get like a fancy version of the Hungry Man dinner, except the only difference is it's delivered and it's salmon instead of whatever fake beef. You get that sent to you at work. You heat it up, you eat it, but you can eat it at your desk. You're all good. It's just like it's optimization. Me, I don't like it. I like to take a long time eating. Because
the idea is like, oh, you're supposed to, what should you be doing instead of thinking about food? What should you be doing instead of thinking about the thing you're doing? What should you be doing? You should be getting more widgets out. You should be becoming a more efficient deliverer of value for someone else.
Make House Party Alpha come out.
Yeah.
Instead of this House Party Beta shit.
I'm on break, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this fucking sandwich.
This is why I always liked Wendy Brown talked about how neoliberalism is better thought of as a rationality than as an ideology, because the way that it kind of reconfigures subjects and the way that we even think of ourselves is like, it's become a complete and total rationale for every action that we take. We judge what actions to do based on what the future returns might be, right?
Yeah. And what we're doing
is like a profit loss.
Yeah, and what we're doing is we are moving away from the light, to be melodramatic about it. We are mechanizing ourselves to no end, to no good end. To what good end? Oh, what? A planet that's cooking to death? People that are either starving or dying of obesity? I mean, everyone miserable? Is that what all this optimization is bringing?
Well, and no one with any job that gives them any sort of sense of.
And the thing they dangle in front of you is like, well, eventually they're going to be like what, rocket cars or like immortality potions, and it's like, bitch, none of that's for you.
No.
None of that is for you.
No, it's part of it. What I think it is, it's a way to disconnect us from ourselves, from our own souls, basically, from your essence, and it essentially despiritualizes you, so that when we do all fucking die, when we're cooked to death, we can't get to heaven because there's no soul to get there.
Exactly. We cannot transcend. We cannot, in the imminence of death, we cannot transcend because we do not have the vocabulary to do so. The internal work has not been done because we've been doing the work of others our entire lives.
100%.
See, I'm doing my part to protect my species being. I've been planning on short ribs that take 3 days to make.
Hell yeah.
So
do it.
This is why
3 days short ribs.
This is why Liz hates AOC so much, because she cooks in that method where you just put everything in a pot.
Well,
I personally, I like eating because it's a miserable life.
Food's like sex in that it's a thing that is both intellectual and physically pleasing at the same time. There are very few things that are both. Most things are one or the other. That is sensuality and intellect combined into one experience. That's the stellar fucking cauldron that created humanity and the universe. And you get to be there for one moment in that. And then, nope, I would rather suck on Soylent like a goddamn hamster with one of those things poking next to my workstation.
They make
And
cookies.
Those are rational. But the thing is, that is a rational response to being a neoliberal subject. You can say it's horrible, but I gotta live. I gotta pay the bills. I have to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I have to do it in a way that gives me the least amount of pain.
Yeah.
Even though I'm training my spirit and I'm not giving any time to build an actual species being, I have to get along. And so you can't argue that they're wrong to do this because you would have to dismantle the whole architecture of their lives.
Yeah,
It's the thing is that they're maybe more onto something than we are in this, because the whole thing, if you have a spirit under the current regime, it is a painful thing to have.
Indeed.
It is a painful thing to have. And so I cannot fault anybody for wanting to squelch their self and to destroy their self.
Some Nepenthe, a little bit of balm of Gilead, because there's nothing but ceaseless pain and confusion and fear because we have no access to any higher plane.
Looking out of the ocean and like seeing like the impossible, hugeness of the world and realizing, dreaming of the stuff, that is basically like cutting yourself. Now it's an act of torture, of self-torture, because what you're doing is wishing for something that's impossible.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you're harming yourself. So what you should be doing is you should just be looking at the ground all the time. Those are the real smart people.
They're not good. Soylent's good. The cummies are good. It's like this stuff is good enough.
Yeah.
It gets me through the day. And it's like, you can't blame anyone for making those choices. What you have to push back on with compassion, I think, and that's the thing I'm going to try to work on more because that hasn't generally been Chapo's deal, is against pushback with compassion, the idea that this is good.
Yeah.
That this is like the reason that I've been thinking about this is I said something about Better Call Saul the other day. And I said, this show would have been much more fun, in my opinion, if it had been like a Case of the Week Rockford Files thing. Like, what's Saul going to do this week? Who's he going to get out of jail?
Serialized?
Yeah. But the thing is, it can't be that because it has to be good.
Yes.
Because people have to feel like their time watching it is well spent. And since they don't read books because...
are we getting your prestige take now?
What?
This is your prestige drama take, right?
This is my refined and hopefully more textured version of what was original. Like I look back at what I wrote about that, and I was like, oh, that's embarrassing. I was only even gesturing towards what I was trying to get at, which is that prestige CD being a commercial medium is a broad spectrum entertainment, which means that the degree to which anyone kindles to it artistically is going to be relatively dim because it's casting as wide a net as possible because it's a commercial product. And that's fine. You can have fun with it and enjoy it on those terms. But because TV is all we have, because we have lost the energy and creativity and time to read or to pursue challenging artistic endeavors, be either creative ourselves or even absorbing others, we have to say, actually, no, TV is as good as books, actually better than books. This is the best thing ever. And then you have to make these shows that are all just crude parodies of each other that are only holding on to these trappings to tell the viewer, you should be spending your time on this. When the reality is the time spent watching fucking Better Call Saul is no more or better well spent than the time spent watching the 1,000-Pound Sisters on TLC. It depends on what you were experiencing while you're watching it.
Well, the thing is, what they try to do too is you saw this concerted push with Netflix and chill, which was the purposeful entwining of the sexual act with the deadening act of watching whatever show on Netflix, mixing that with your jism to create a new for some reason it drains you. It does take your jism. It takes your life force and it drains you.
It's a black mass ritual.
Absolutely.
You get home, And you literally, the carnal act, instead of being kindled by like a feeling for another person, it's literally kindled by boredom. We've watched this shit. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
And then it's like it's another thing to keep you in your nutrient cube. With you, your ideal subject has got Netflix and Soylent coming into their tubes, and that's good enough for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is like a lot like this is the stuff that a lot of trad people and like reactionaries talk about, and people get mad at them because yes, they have bad priors that make their solutions bad, and they should be fought on those terms.
But it doesn't mean the analysis is wrong.
Don't fight against when they're right. Like the idea is, no, if you concede anything to anyone, then they win. It's like, motherfucker, that is not a dialectic.
No, and the thing is, it's. I think why that stuff appeals to some people is because it does show like a yearning for something else, for like obviously all those deuce volt, fucking all those, like you can see it with all those people who like basically all those like overnight like Catholic converts that you see.
Yes.
Like, these like people who were like whatever, raised with two Jewish parents or something, and then become like this big trad cath person, because it is that they're unable to understand like what their desires are or like where their desires come from, but they have those desires, and so they're like, well, I do yearn for like a simpler time. This seems like a simpler time, but it was so regimented that's why it was simple. Or something like that.
And the thing is that like that yearning and even the vocabulary of it can be engaged with productively, but you have to have good faith, which no one has.
Liz has
which literally 0 people have in like the public sphere, except for Liz, of course.
Well, I think also if you do engage with any of it, then you're just accused of being fascist.
Right, of course, because both sides have created an anti-dialectic where every confrontation reifies your separate views, what do you think that leads to? Do you really think one wins? When has that ever been the case? It's called the common ruin of the contending classes for a reason. Like, if you do not move towards each other, you will both be destroyed.
Right. But it's not the case anymore. Maybe it is now. It seems like a lot of that kind of, we were talking about how, it's weird, like, or maybe I was talking with someone else, that a lot of the conversations that like emerged out of 2016, 2015, 2016 are kind of like reappearing, but in a like kind of bizarro way, where it's like, even the like responses to Bernie, or even the responses to like, even the stuff we're talking about now, it's like, there's that like incel doc that just came out or whatever. And it's like all of these people are suddenly like kind of don't care about those polarizing battles that everyone was facing in 2015. Do you know what I mean? It's like all these like insane posters call people fascists for engaging with, whatever. And suddenly it just looks completely and totally ridiculous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons it looks ridiculous is because we're on the other side of a genuine contest that was won by, in the short term, was won by reaction, which then can allow the release, like 2015. You're gearing up for a presidential election. You're gearing up for Bernie Sanders running for president or something like that. You have to constrain these things. There can only be conflict. There cannot be cooperation, even though cooperation is the only way to make any kind of enduring political coalition. But once the battle has been like ended and like the threat has receded a little bit, now you can there's less at stake, so people feel more free to talk. But then like just imperceptibly all throughout the world and like the pseudo world of the internet and all the cultures. Of like the subcultures within the internet, also the actual capitalist edifices that are driving those, like take mill clickbait places and blue check marks who have a literal profit investment in maintaining a certain discourse.
Yes.
All of those things are subtly and individually and collectively influenced towards reifying conflict to avoid cooperation.
Yeah.
When when DEFCON status has been reduced, now you can kind of like the Christmas truce. You can go out there and you can kick the ball around in no man's land. But then eventually, if it's time to go over the top, fucking the pedophile with the swagger stick comes out and says, "Get back in the trench."
Yeah, or shoot you with a starting pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where things go from here.
Yeah, to say the least.
It's going to be very weird. I wonder, because a lot of that stuff really did come to a head, like the incel stuff, whatever, the sort of right wing stuff came to a head, of course, during Trump's campaign, and then coasted for a while, and then sort of been declining. And I wonder, like, sort of what's going to take its place this next time, essentially, because now it's like all of their sort of nesting places, 4chan, 8chan, whatever. That's all just the domain of QAnon people, right? Yeah. Like, they don't have that same sort of cohesiveness there. And also a lot of their like memes and a lot of their rhetoric has just been I was talking about with Felix last week, like the irony stuff on the left or whatever has also just diffused into the mainstream. And now it's like none of it really means anything. All of it's sort of been denuded of all meaning.
Yeah, like you could post Pepe now.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
It's fine now.
There was a while there if you posted Pepe.
Thank God.
You were you might as well have showed them your black sun tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
But
I really like the Pepe I have. That's the girl with the pearl earring. That's my favorite one.
I like that little deformed Pepe. What's her name? Apu.
Apu's far superior. Yeah, Apu. It's funny is that in 2016 we did like a benefit talent show, I think it was, for Bernie here, and we know the guy that like came up with Pepe, Matt Fury, like the guy who originally did it, and he sent in like a little Bernie Pepe, which stupidly we gave to the person who won. He also like contributed like a real piece of art. And he drew the Pepe on the box. And like an idiot, I gave that Pepe to the person who won the prize.
You blew it!
I blew it. I had the key right there.
I'll tell you, Apu is the best. Pepe is still okay. The Groiper, always and forever disgusting and vile.
You're just saying that because you have... fuck both of you. Fuck both of you. This is the most privileged bullshit I've ever heard.
You had a Groiper, right, Matt?
I had a Groiper, yes.
Yeah, so did you.
I had a Groiper for a second, and then it went away.
You guys
still both had Groipers.
In like years. I haven't posted in years, but yes, I have a Groiper.
I don't have a Groiper.
I feel like Groiper low-key fell off.
Groipers, it's too late now to have a Groiper. Now it'd be like if you were a voice actor, if you were like a guest voice on The Simpsons now, it's like, who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's Same thing with what's his name, Nick Fuentes. He kind of fell off too.
Who?
The booger Nazi guy.
Oh, I don't know what.
He's tiny. He's very small. He ate a booger on a live stream once. I saw him and like a courtier of his attendance at CPAC in 2019. He was very tiny, very grotesque. And I as soon as I was talking to somebody and a reporter that he recognized from jousting with, and he came over to epically own him or something. And I immediately left. And then four of the guys who were with him recognized us. We were sitting at a table outside the venue, and they came over to give us the business. And I was peaking on acid at the time. So that was a bad moment. So this giant moon-faced, creepy, Waffen SS guy is standing over me. He's wearing a three-piece suit and a giant cross. He looks like a Brazilian Pentecostal minister. And he's he got mad at me, and he's just trying to own me for being a cripple and for being bald. And I'm like, yeah, crew. And he's but then he's oh, I bet you he says something about how much I must love brutalist architecture. And then I realized at that point that he's been having a one-sided argument with me for I don't know how long that I wasn't a part of.
Yeah.
And so he was expecting me to take up my side of the argument that he's been having with his head. So he thought that oh boy, I'm going to say brutalist architecture and we're going to get a real barn burner. And I said to him, I have no idea what you're talking about. and he visibly like deflated like a balloon.
One time, the only like one time I was at like, remember when those like big these are done now too, but remember when those like big battles in Berkeley were going on?
Oh God, yeah.
Don't get me started on those. Some of the worst tactics I've ever seen deployed in my entire life. But I went to the first one. This was right after I got back from Syria, and I was just kind of like watching basically Antifa get their asses kicked very badly, repeatedly, because everyone
unless you've done like a few like pull-ups or something. Come on.
Yeah, it's like you like those guys have been like training. You guys apparently have not been, and everyone's a little general of their different group. But anyways, I was like kind of just like standing there watching. I did have a gun with me, but not like out. And I saw this little, I mean, I'm telling you, and I want to preface this with, I myself am 5'1", okay? So it's okay for me to say this. I saw a guy who was like one of the leaders of Identity Europa who was like 4'8". And just
that guy, Domingo?
Nathan Domingo.
He's a manless.
In one of the worst heights I've ever seen on a man. And without he doesn't have like he doesn't have like any disability or anything that makes him he's just a very small man. He was with some of and that's when I realized I was like, these guys are weirder than left-wing people, because he was with a guy who was just wearing, actually really predating the trend that's going on now. He was wearing blue latex gloves and a face mask, but like an N95 mask. And was just like standing like this, like his arm out the whole time, both of them like this. And I was like, what the fuck? And this, because it was like half sponsored by the Berkeley College Republicans, who were like friends with Nathan Domingo and shit. Like it wasn't, they actually like that leadership of it like were friends with the Nazis. But there was all these like regular Republicans who were there who thought it was an actual like free speech rally. And one guy started talking to me. He's like, what are you, like a communist? Are you trying to shut down free speech? I'm like, come on, man. Like, these guys are Nazis. And he's like, they're not Nazis. Like, I'm Jewish. Like, I'm not going to deny that the Holocaust happened. And then the guy in the blue gloves is like, oh, yeah, man, the Holocaust did not happen. Like, let me tell you. He's like, there was no way that they could take that many people and burn them. Look at the statistics of how many people they say they burned a day. And the guy was just like, he's like, but you're Jewish. You shouldn't even be here anyways. Get the fuck out of here. And I was like, yeah, he's right. You shouldn't.
It's like all those right-wing guys and like the alt-right guys, they think they're so clever making fun of like DSA, like Antifa kind of, and the like really extreme kind of like cartoonish DSA stuff that you see like go viral.
Yeah.
But it's like flip side of the coin, baby. Like these people are just as insanely goofy. Like I'm sorry, dressing up as a Nazi in 2020 is like beyond just totally reprehensible. It's like you guys are just as much cosplaying like ridiculousness as people that you think are thing.
The same guys who were making fun of like Antifa Waluigi were worshiping some like fetal alcohol syndrome homunculus in a fucking homemade Spartan armor that they like followed around like he was fucking Samson. And it's like, come on, man, this is just embarrassing.
Yeah, it's like that, or like. Even the Proud Boys, and like it's like it's Gavin McInnes so badly wanted to be like a Joe Rogan type, like, and then like kind of like these guys all thought they found the cheat code by making the right wing.
Like McInnes, all these guys, that's the word for it, is that they wanted a cheat code, and that's true on the left too. That's true in all political tendencies. You want a cheat code. You want the access. You want the networks. You want the money. You want the esteem. If you can't have any of the rest. But you maybe don't have that good of an idea. You don't have the patience or the ability to sit down and think of something. You're not that naturally funny or talented. So you're just going to fucking do that. You're just going to say, oh, actually.
Everyone's one weird trick.
Yeah, exactly. Epic ironic racism is going to do it for me. And it's like, yeah, but you're a fucking chinless dullard. So at the end of the day, your rule will be short-lived. Because you don't have it. Joe Rogan, God bless him, he's still the king of his basement podcast empire.
Yeah.
Well, it's like at that point, Rogan is just normal.
Yeah, he's normal.
Rogan is just Rogan is like the level as Bill Simmons. It's just like normal people listen to him.
Gavin McInnes, and the thing is, you want to say, oh, it's all the same. It's like, I'm sorry, Joe Rogan, normal guy with a hugely popular podcast. Gavin McInnes he threw away $1 billion with a B dollars so that he could say the N-word in a Scottish accent on 3 o'clock in the morning on Fox News.
And he still probably could have said the N-word. Like, he could have worked for the CIA if he kept going at 5. The thing
he
is,
needed to be smart enough and like patient enough to actually like work an angle.
the thing is that Gavin McInnes, the different there is that Gavin McInnes came from Vice, which is New York or whatever, Toronto, or Quebec or whatever, then New York, cocaine. Like, he is like a cocaine fucking urbanite. And Joe Rogan came from UFC, which millions of, like, everybody hates the cocaine Vice people, but everybody loves the UFC people. And so it's like, you're coming to, like, Gavin's not normal. Joe is.
Joe's a normal dude.
Also, Rogan, like, doesn't consider himself political. He's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
hold on.
These people are not political actors.
This is a
Is
picture.
that Domingo?
You can't see it really, but look how little he is. That's the guy with the gloves. You know, Greg took this picture. Domingo is the other guy is normal height.
That is a small bean right there. Yeah, people can't.
I don't want to make fun of his height.
I do.
But he's so cute. He's tiny. I want to put him in my pocket. Oh yeah, but what were we? Shit. Oh,
Rogan.
I was distracted by that guy's tininess. They cannot. People who are like wild, who have, like we were talking about how watching prestige TV and thinking it means something gives you a substitute for actual like self-improvement and like meaningful time spent on Earth. Same thing with caring about politics. So having politics, like being a Democrat, either like for vote blue no matter who to ML with 700 flags in the bio, all of that is a substitute for the work you should be doing. And so they can, but it's so central to them. It's so central to like the edifice of meaning they've been able to cobble together from scraps and like bird shit, that the thought that other people don't have that same need, they can't conceive of it. So you can't, if you say Rogan's not political, that doesn't compute.
Yeah.
It's like, no, of course, everyone is.
I am a big proponent of
everyone has politics, but people don't have every person doesn't have conscious politics, even if everything is political in the sense that politics shape why, like, your responses and what you think, but not everyone is conscious of a political agenda. And people, like politically invested people who have made that part of their identity, cannot conceive of that.
Yeah.
They can't, like, it's like, yeah, no, he doesn't care about politics. What are you talking about? He talks to Sam Harris. Isn't he doing that for a reason? It's like, no, he's like, oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. It's like, and like the right wing thing resonates because, you know, if you don't have formed politics, some guy's saying you should talk to everyone, and someone else is saying you shouldn't talk to X, Y, and Z. Well, if you don't have preconceived political, like a vent or I keep forgetting the word for it, the fucking mesh on a pan or whatever to like catch the meanings and resonances behind free speech. It just means like, what? These guys have the free speech. And the other side is literally just telling you don't talk to them. And then if you ask them why not, they say, fuck you, that's why not. How dare you even consider talking to them? You should already know not to talk to them. Yeah. Well, it's like, motherfucker, I don't. And what are you going to do about it? Yeah. It's like, I'm going to yell at you until the world ends, until we all kill each other and die angry and scared and freezing to death on a rock.
Well, Liz and I talk about Liz is a big proponent. Me, I don't care because I would never be able to like debate or talk to anybody without purely just making fun of the way they look physically, which would I guess, technically lose me the argument. But Liz doesn't do that. And is a big in favor of talking to people who you despise or whose politics are fucking stupid. Because that's also how sort of we refine our own arguments too.
Right. Well, I think a lot of it comes down to how confident you feel about engaging in that debate. And most people with politics have not thought about their politics very deeply, and they don't even know why they disagree.
I mean, I don't think that like every conversation or like engaging in topics that are quote unquote verboten, or people that are quote unquote verboten, is necessarily like the same thing as debating someone, I guess.
Right.
Like I just like I'm not interested in some like tete-a-tete, because but I also don't find any of that kind of like fruitful.
Yeah.
But
No, I
the
don't
idea,
like it either.
kind of what you were saying, like, you know, the principles of the dialectic or whatever, if we can even, use that very abstractly, let's say. But like this idea that like there is nothing to be gained by talking to people you disagree with, or who are, it's like the most absurd notion to me. Like it goes against like every thing that I understand about intellectual or political culture, or like how to develop one. It's like, no, you don't develop an intellectual or political culture by completely insulating yourself from ideas that challenge you, or challenge what you what you hold to be your own ideas. That's just not how it works.
But
so it's completely absurd to me to then say like, no, it's actually like socially illegal for you to engage with these people or these ideas.
But the thing is,
the
word you use there that is key is developing a worldview, developing politics, developing a personal praxis of like, beliefs. None of these, most people's, I would say most, like I'm not even pointing fingers at like, woke scolds, whatever that means, or ID Paul, anything like that. Get rid of like those notions. Just most people, even if they have politics, they did not develop them.
Yeah.
They don't go through the work of developing the thoughts. They just grab information. They go on a Twitter feed and they grab, here's X, Y, and Z articles that prove the point that these other people I saw making a point made, and then I will repeat that point. And so they can't engage with ideas they don't agree with, because they don't know how to argue, because they can't even explain why they believe what they believe. How are they going to explain it to somebody else?
No, that's exactly right. They can't even make an argument for the thing that they themselves believe they are arguing for.
Yes, and that's from ISIS guys and like alt-right or whatever. Like,
because they fundamentally believe, and this goes back to the worldview that they have, that like there are certain evil ideas out in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so because of the way that, like you say, the way that they've again, you're correct to say develop is the wrong word, but have like
I'm saying you're
a belief system.
Yeah. Like there should be this is an awkward thing.
Ideas just sort of like exist, including bad ones, and you pick and choose.
Yeah.
Which means you can, just like see the bad idea and you just delete it and you get rid of it. So if we just get rid of the bad things, if we stop engaging with the bad things, then that will go away. I mean, this is a completely, not only is it like solipsistic and anti-intellectual, but it's nihilistic, and it's the complete total destruction of any political culture.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Yeah, because people have an idea that you can be a thing. That I'm a Marxist, I'm a Christian, I'm a Nazi or whatever. No, you're not. You're just a fucking tube of goo.
Well,
you act in certain ways in certain environments that accrue to be an identity, and because this is all purely abstracted on Twitter and in the internet mostly, it is purely abstracted from personal practice. So it's entirely, like you said, a grab bag of things you saw other people say. Because you haven't done the work in yourself to make sense of why you believe what you want. And you have heard things, you have like the cry that we all do for transcendence and for communion with others, but you don't have a vocabulary to even understand what you want.
And
because
the thing is,
you have to work, and because you're constrained, because we all are. But you have to fight against the constraint.
The thing is it's like is not everybody needs to know even all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't expect everybody to, but the problem is
I'm not talking about information like discrete information or books. I just mean thinking through problems.
But the thing is,
even if you don't use a book, even if you just use your own reason sense,
essentially the way we're all that way that like everybody essentially. I'm just talking about in America here, but really in most Western countries, there is no sort of centralized apparatus to which we like adhere, if that makes any sense. Like, there's no political party, there's no coherent.
There's no Politburo. Yeah,
exactly. And so, like, the way it works, the way everyone's politics works, is that like we all just believe sometimes totally wildly different things. That like oftentimes we just believe because we encountered some like Twitter account we like and think is funny, which is like, okay, again, like I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad, like
no, but it's the start of
that,
something.
but
you have to engage with it. You can't just let it there.
Exactly, and like the problem is without like a political party which has like a constitution and a political program and stuff like that. Is you can't, like, there's no way for us all to believe the same thing or whatever.
No.
And like,
so,
people are like, it becomes evil to have like to demand that, because it is this American sense of individuality where it's like, no, we're all just like, we're the left and we're diverse and we all believe different stuff.
But what's really insidious about that is because there's no central committee offering the Moscow line, what we have instead is it's self-policed by like the social milieu, which is of course neoliberal. And so a neoliberal social milieu is disciplining left-wing discourse. How is that supposed to end with anything other than leftism being drained of any real challenge to neoliberalism or capitalism?
I think the key that you just said was policing, self-policing. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like something that, we've all talked about too, is that when you kind of have like a left media that is, all kind of disparate, and it is like neoliberal in that way because everyone's like permalancer, right? Yeah. And so everyone's like careering, and that makes the incentives insanely,
distorted. Your incentive as like a voice on the left is for your own personal improvement of your circumstances. And of course, that's very funny for us to say as billionaire podcasters that we are. We hit the jackpot, whatever. But that is a real element. That's a real structure. That's a real like embedded element of trying to have a left discourse through like the internet. Is that it will be dominated by the individual interests of individual members of that milieu, which are going to be in conflict with any kind of collective endeavor because they still have to fucking keep the lights on. They still don't want to work a real job because real jobs suck, as we all know. They want a way out. They want a cheat code, as we all do. And that's what ends up dominating is everybody, man is wolf to man, everybody like on the left, by nature, like the law of the jungle, it adheres even as you're trying to build a fucking movement, which is a direct contradiction and makes it almost impossible to do it. And then you've just got every man for himself and God against all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that like play out. I think when people don't have like a clear understanding of like the terms of something or when they don't have a political program, I guess, we see things play out like we saw like the sort of debate around like open borders a couple of years ago, where essentially like you had people calling for a maximalist position of open borders. And again, you can have maximalist positions, but they called them maximalist positions around like minimal demands, essentially. So you had people calling for this one maximal position in Bernie Sanders' platform or whatever, when by definition, Bernie Sanders' platform is all what a Marxist would term minimum demands.
Because it's a fucking popular political program.
Exactly. And then you just had like basically zero coherence and nobody like really, and even if you even brought it up, people get really mad at you.
But it provided a arbitrage opportunity. You can arbitrage your commitment to abolish ICE or your commitment to opening borders against other people's lack of commitment, and then you can arbitrage that difference to the audience who have invested the idea of abolishing borders with meaning because they see other people say it and they haven't thought it through. And so you can set yourself up there. You can open your banana stand as the person who really seriously wants to open it, even though you have no plan to make that happen.
Exactly.
Even though you know the contradiction between trying to run a
capitalist state.
Yeah, it's like, this won't work. Well, you would if you thought about it. And the thing is, a lot of them aren't even being cynical because they haven't thought about it enough either. They think I can have it both ways.
Well, again, anyone could possibly challenge them.
Huh?
Anyone who could possibly challenge them to think about it, they just exnate from the discourse.
Right. And because this is a value. We like opening borders. And it's like, yeah, well, sure, in abstract, but like we're in a real world, and what does it mean to say that? And so you can just rally, you can enforce that
abstract
slogan because you can get everybody on the same side because there's no materiality to it.
It doesn't
there's
matter.
No conflict.
It doesn't
so
matter. I'm
so
like,
everyone can be for it. I'm for it. Like whatever it is, I'm for it because it doesn't impact my life.
Yeah.
And so I can then use that and adhere to it like fanatically because it costs me nothing to do so. And in reverse, it gains me leverage over people who aren't as able to express either because of their inability to verbalize it or because of their misgivings about the project, their lack of commitment to the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I think there's a social incentive to appear the most radical.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. Is that 100%. Like if you set yourself up as the most, then you are if we've said like being socialist, being radical is good, and you can make a plausible case by being the most radical because you've adhered to the most abstract ideas that don't mean anything, don't have material basis, then you can dictate terms if everyone agrees that you are truly representing the values that they care about. And that's what they really want more than anything, is to express to others that they adhere to these values.
Yeah, this is why that like ridiculous, goofy tweet from Sean McElwee, the one where he's like, I'm to the left of Karl Marx, is actually like so useful in the like explanatory, like that's a useful statement because it illustrates the exact ridiculousness of the kind of like it's like this new left turn in the neoliberal order that is highly incentivizing like obscenely polarized language and quote unquote politics while still maintaining or shoring up the legitimacy of the status quo.
Yeah. And the only reason he feels comfortable saying something like that, although he did delete it, which was pretty funny, for even a second, is because he probably, and people reading that, he knows that's a sentence that doesn't make sense if you have thought through what the left or who Karl Marx is. You know that I'm to the left of Karl Marx is an absurd. It's like it's not wrong. It's just nonsensical.
That's so much of it. It becomes because you see like it's this totally anti-scientific approach of things, because what it is it's idealistic. It's idealism. It's like it's like you said this earlier. Is being a socialist, people know that being a socialist is good because obviously many people do come to their politics through a sense of morality. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, which is totally natural and like not weird whatsoever.
Inevitable.
But because there's no political party and no political program and no political
education. No way to act. There's no way to act on being a socialist so you can feel it.
Exactly. And so people think that like, oh, the more left I am, which by the way is very let's say subjective and not necessarily like
gibberish. It means nothing.
Because like, okay, how, like in what way, like, okay, like, because you see this, people are like, the way that this works is that like there's like social democrat, then like democratic socialist, then like Marxist, and then like Marxist Leninist, and then anarchist.
It's like these are nothing.
What does that mean? Like it's like being the people are just like, I can't not be the most like, because like I am not an anarchist, so I'm not the most left, and being the most left means I'm the most moral. Which is is a totally anti-scientific way to look at politics.
Because it's like
people are anarchists. Is the other thing.
Because left is a material project of bringing about socialism. Like that's what the left means.
Yeah.
Bringing it about, not the state itself, not the abstract Platonic notion, the act of trying to bring it about, which means it's a political project, which means it has to be made up of actions. It has to be made up of concrete actions.
Right.
It cannot be in the realm of fantasy, and the internet has allowed people to exclusively live in the realm of fantasy.
Yeah.
Even if they think they're doing politics, they have been ensorcelled by the demonic machine.
Yes. The black magic.
Black magic. I'm telling you, the demiurge. He's fucking with us at every moment.
Dude,
I'll be right back.
I mean, it drives me crazy because I see it like you see it. The kernel of it starts on the internet and then it goes out into real life, and then you encounter people who have the most bonkers positions that they've never thought about for a second.
Not for a second,
but they will strangle you to death. If you were like, why are we talking? Like, I got in a ton of arguments about people about the open borders issue because I was like, listen, this literally doesn't make sense for you to be demanding because the entire rest of your program that you're asking for is like for basically to make sure it's like your social democratic reforms to capitalism. You're not trying to attack the economic base in any real way, and you think that like. And that would I would watch it transform in the air like I was emitting some kind of magical ray that just refracted off the light in front of me into being, Brace is saying he's against open borders. And what I'm telling you is it doesn't matter what I'm for. Of course I'm for open borders.
Who cares? You're just some asshole.
Exactly. Like I'm for many different things. Very few of which I will describe here. But like it became all I was trying to do is get my opposite number to understand for a moment that what they're demanding made zero sense. Like when people were like amazed that AOC wasn't for open borders. Of course, AOC is not going to be for open borders. Are you fucking high?
She's a politician.
Exactly. She said Nancy Pelosi is the mom. Nobody who's saying the words Nancy Pelosi is the mama bear is like. Is talking about your destruction of the nation state. They are part of the capitalist machinery. If open borders benefited the capitalists more than it didn't, we would have them.
Yeah,
that's the way you're going to get them with the current makeup of the American state.
And because what it boils down to is that leftism, like every other intellectual tradition, to use that word, to honestly profane that word. Is all cargo cult shit. It's like you're on a beach and you just pick up some shit and you turn. It's like this means something, but you don't know where it came from. You don't know what to do with it. You just have the items.
Yeah.
So you have the slogans. You have the imagery. Oh, epic Stalin with the sunglasses trailing. Oh look, he's Lenin.
Wow.
Epic. Oh, Mao's being epic right now. Look, oh my God, Hoxha is dabbing on those hoes. It's all just pure, empty signifying. It is, as T.S. Eliot said, gesture without motion.
Yeah, exactly. It's magic. And what's worse is, I don't know how to phrase this, but like so many things in society, it's like they're content to let us like fool ourselves, like. The left doesn't pose a real threat to the power structure because it's all like it's all of us just practicing like tricking each other, and brain.
If everyone pick each other's pocket, as Frank Sabatka said.
Yeah, and it's like I don't what the solution to that is. I don't know. Obviously, if you look at history, which again a lot of people, despite epic Hoxha, don't really like to do. If you look at history. The obvious part is like that all successful, whatever movements came from an organized, centralized apparatus.
Yeah.
But in America, the thing is, there are many theories about why, socialism never took root in America like it did in pretty much every other country across the world. Maybe not Bhutan, although there is the Bhutanese Tiger Force, Maoists, which respect to them. But the theory that I've kind of always had is again, it's not a scientific theory, although you could make it one if you like knew more than I do. But my theory is that so many people are basically not brainwashed essentially into being just like incredible individualists from like the day that they are born.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about like
that's the only way they can recognize. That's the only way they can process anything, including the idea of being a leftist.
It's like
they can only process it through an individual lens, as we all can, because that's what we have. That's the heuristic we have been.
Yes.
We've had slapped or the hardware that got slapped into our meat.
Yeah,
that's what we have.
And it's probably, again, I don't know enough about it. Funnily enough, like many Marxists, I'm not as versed in American history as I am in history of basically like the Czechoslovakia or anything like that. But like, probably a lot of it did come from this being like, a country founded entirely by settlers, and like people, this ethos of the Manifest Destiny.
Oh no, free real estate. American exceptionalism is defined by 3 words: free real estate.
Yeah. And so like maybe that's to do with it, but like I also think why like we have such an incredible prevalence of like individualist anarchists and shit like that. When I was growing up, every motherfucker I knew was like a crust house anarchist, and I was just like, that's why I like basically never became one, because I was like, oh wait, I don't want a butt flap. I would like
you don't want to wear a union suit to Whole Foods?
Yeah. I'm not gonna wear a little train. I will say one of those guys I know though did become a train conductor. I think a conductor. He worked on a train, which I'm like, all right, respect committee for the bit. But I don't know what's gonna. I mean, my bad theory is that things have to get a lot worse in order to basically force people, because you need this degree of like social cohesion, which we don't have. At least most of the milieu that a lot of the left is drawn from in America is not part of that. Like we're not part of like a small town, church or like whatever.
And that's why I thought the Bernie campaign, most of all, was worth investing time in, because it was an attempt to jumpstart, to throw some fucking like an adrenaline needle like into like the social being of America. And I think like it failed at its proximate attempt to make him president, but we don't know yet to the degree to which it succeeded in kindling something that could be the baseline structure that could be built up. We don't know, and we won't know for some time. But we do know that something has to be done. And all this virtue signaling on the internet is the opposite of that. Whatever that work is, that is what most people are considering their work to be political, is the opposite of that.
I think that I think that like one analytical mistake is thinking that like austerity would breed like realization or actualization, when it's actually the opposite. Like austerity, if anything, breeds compliance.
Yes.
And like, you see that like, very obviously, for example, in like, the case of journalism, where you see like, that entire industry has been like completely demolished and just like, I mean, and it's had ramifications into the actual like industry of journalism itself. Like journalism as a kind of totem of liberal democracy just does not exist in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because you basically starve people so much that they have to, there's no other option. And so this is like part of the like kind of accelerationist argument that I like have problems with. I think there's a difference between like things just have to get insanely more desperate, and we have to push through the contradictions that exist in our society currently. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Go ahead.
Like, I don't think that, I guess, because I just like I kind of want to push back. And I don't think this is the argument you're making, Grace, at all. Also because I know your argument. But like, for the people at home that maybe like, I know a lot of people kind of like dabble in accelerationist ideas or thoughts or impulses. But I think that there's like a difference between, again, the kind of like Marxist dialectical notion of pushing through, right? And things just have to get like, people just have to be more desperate, and then something spontaneous will happen.
Right, because we cannot conceive of the action of making anything happen, so it has to come from outside. There has to be some intervening event, because we cannot make it. And the thing is, like, the degree to which...
and that's like very dangerous.
Yeah, and so the degree to which...
That's a drive for authority is what it is, actually. It's a drive for like, authoritarianism, to be honest.
And the degree to which we... like a worsening condition can be the start of something good is the degree to which that worsening condition creates new material conditions that can be exploited.
That's
not just that bad things are happening and we're all sadder now.
And shape
Yeah.
as well.
What I'm saying,
and having that as
go ahead.
what? Oops. But also as those new material conditions emerge, having that intervening, what I think that we would agree with, party or body that can shape and help kind of strategically direct that whatever those new formations are within the working class, right?
Yeah.
What I think is essentially like the deproletarianization of labor in the U.S. or whatever, the precaritization of what I don't know how to pronounce that or how to make that word work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is I just don't see it like I am not sure like how people think that social forces can kind of gather themselves in America right now. I think that like what I'm not saying is I think that there should be austerity under the U.S. government. I think that literally like once the like organs of the state become less strong because of degradation over time. Obviously, this is not something I think can happen because of COVID or anything like that. This would be a very long sort of decline of empire if that happens. I just think that makes it a lot more likely than what I think is sort of the more likely outcome now, which is that America basically some sort of financial disaster eventually happens, which we all do agree that that is sort of the nature of capitalism, that eventually will happen, whether it's big or small, it will happen, and we get invaded by a combined army of all the South American nations. That's socialist. So like you could say like yes, I am a third worldist in that sense. I don't know. It's unless Americans basically prove themselves able to create a mass party or something. Like I don't see anything possible without that first step. And I'm not
there has
sure.
to be some sort of significant shakeup of the current array.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that there has to, but the shakeup has to actually touch like material conditions.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, things are worse off in like a generalized sense. It's like, well, no, that just like puts people makes them more tractable and makes them more looking for an easy solution in the form of demagoguery or authoritarianism, as Liz said.
Yeah. I mean, look. You can basically trace Trump from the 2008 crash. You can.
Yeah.
Things have been getting worse for a long time, and like I will say, like in the past 4 years, it was not fun to be a socialist in 2014, let alone 2011. It was not great. It's still not fun, really, by any metric or sense of the word, but it's a lot more full, I guess, which means there's also a lot more crackpots, but that's something we've never had a shortage of.
No.
They're different now, though. It's not like the old guys anymore.
Yeah, it's
a
very
new
young
generation.
crackpots. You can see the crackpot, like somebody, the kernel of a crackpot in so many people. You're like, this guy, 40 years from now, absolutely he'll be that guy that's like, who's that dude in Boston? You know what I'm talking about? It's like
Paul Revere.
No, the Trotskyist guy. He's like famous for having like defend the deformed worker state of North Korea. It's right to have nuclear weapons.
He sounds cool. I don't know who he is, but he sounds like a lit king.
I will say Trotskyism basically got memed out of existence, which is very funny.
Yeah, they got embarrassed.
Yeah.
No, they exist. They're just neocons.
They're crypto. No, they still exist.
They're crypto, yeah. That's the thing. They stopped saying they were Trotskyists.
Yeah, now they say they're so-called democratic socialists.
We're staying White House now.
Yeah.
Tom Cotton, Trotskyist.
That's true.
But like, I don't know. It's funny. When I was in the Middle East, there was these 3 parties from Turkey that were there. Well, more than that, but there was 3 that I was with. One was a Hojist party, whose old guard members would wake up every morning and go, Enver Hoca, Enver Hoca, Enver Hoca. And there was one that I was with, which was just like a baseline Marxist-Leninist party, basically made up of urban youths from Istanbul. And then there was one that was a Maoist one. And the guys that I was with would print out statistics of the declining amount of farmers in Turkey and give them to the Maoists and be like, you guys got to give it up.
Oh, Enver Hoxha. Oh, Enver Hoxha.
Respect to Enver, though. Respect.
Respect.
I mean, it's
the bunkers, man. Come on. I'm sure you could have used some more of those bunkers in fucking Syria.
Yeah, he's like, first, I don't know much about that. I've read Hoxha before. I have not read much of why he did the bunker thing, but I'm guessing it's because the Chinese were basically ready for themselves to be nuked by America, and in Hoxha's mind, he must have been like, well, if they're going to nuke China, they'd probably nuke China's only ally, Albania.
I think John Dolan, I remember one time, I remember just him saying about the bunkers that his theory was that it was basically to give them something to do, like something to do with the surplus that existed, that they didn't have like the ability or like wherewithal to distribute to do like productively, you know, like hospitals or anything. It's like, we don't really have that, but we have all this concrete and we need to have something for people to do.
Yeah.
So build the fucking bunkers. Like this, just a Keynes kind of like a communist Keynesian thing of like fill a hole with concrete and then live in it.
The world does need ditch diggers. It does.
It does. It needs
Proud
bunker
ditch digger
diggers.
myself.
Definitely.
I graded it. I actually am extremely good at digging ditches.
I gotta say, given like the general sense of things coming apart at the seams, I think I would definitely feel more comfortable if I was living in a Albanian bunker right now. If I had one all staked out and I had like claymores and a perimeter and I had a couple of heavy machine guns and just a bunch of MREs, that feels like a great place to post up.
Absolutely. That's the thing. It's difficult to. There should be. I just think I would make a good warlord. I feel like there's not a lot. I don't want to. Any of the countries could do it in now. I would feel racist doing it in. So like I'm not gonna go be a warlord in Africa, but I would feel okay being a warlord in like Albania. Even though there is hot contention over what race the Albanians actually are.
They're Turks.
It's Greek. Greeks are Turks.
They're all Turks.
They're all Turks.
Yeah, they're all Turks.
All Turks.
Everyone's a Turk.
Literally.
Spoiler alert, everyone in the Balkans is a Turk. It's like, this is not difficult, people.
Yeah.
They fucking ran the place for 500 years. What the fuck do you think you are?
There needs to be like a mass UN program, because we could have Yugoslavia again if we just made everyone in the Balkans realize that, no, you're not Albanian, or you're not Serbian. You're not Albanian. You are Turkish. You're
not a Croat or any of that bullshit.
Just get back together.
Yeah. Just hang out. Come on. Just hang out for a little bit and see how it feels.
Merhaba.
Turkey would like that.
Yeah. Turkey is a good example of where things could get sort of the interim period between total breakdown and what we're in right now. Just like a massively empowered executive who conducts constant purges. It wouldn't be Trump. Erdogan is not like a great sort of analog for Trump, but he's a great analog for somebody who could maybe come a couple guys after Trump.
Well, that's the thing, is that Trump is difficult to compare to any contemporary rulers because most of them emerged from organic political networks, and they represent those networks. Yeah. Like Modi, like Duterte, like Orban, like Erdogan. Erdogan built the AKP. There was no he invented the fucking party. Him and Golan invented the fucking party. He brought together all those strands of like Islamism and like this, like those sulking
dissident nationalists.
Yeah,
Salvini is all that.
Like the only example of somebody who just is floating on top of a movement that is completely uncoordinated because it is just the random stochastic spectacle impulses of a disengaged and over entertained and stimulated populace is Trump, and that's perfect because he is them. He is the elevation of the subject, not a embodiment of a political movement embodying a group of people who are acting in self-interest as like a class or subclass for themselves. It's a bunch of people operating off of reactionary discontent that has no focus, that has no name, and has no because no one has given it to them. And Trump, they voted for him because he's just them. He's just a guy who's like, where's this Asian guy on TV? And it's like, yeah, why is there an Asian guy on TV? And now he's in charge.
No, it's just, yeah, you're right. He's a reaction to, and he was, referendum on the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Of, Reaganism, Obamasm, Bushism.
I was just thinking, somebody said it in the chat, and I was going to say this, is that the closest analog to Trump in that respect is Bolsonaro, another guy who floated to the top. There was a concerted effort to get Dilma out of there, to coup the Workers' Party out of there, but then they literally...
I would call it a concerted effort, though. I mean, like, I think that was like...
That was pretty crooked. I mean, the corruption investigation was all a stitch up to get the Workers' Party.
No, I know. That's what I mean. I think that I think we can go further than calling it just a concerted effort. Like, I mean, I think it was
I think it wasn't here through the thing.
Like, I mean, it's like, he had the backing of the military shooting, students in universities.
Yeah.
So
so there was a movement, but Bolsonaro is not the guy who engineered it. He's not a guy who was at the post. He is a member of like a party. He's a part of a party for this party
called PSL.
The conventional right-wing party, the Temer guys, have been totally discredited by then because of the economy continuing to collapse and their corruption. And he was just the guy, and he bubbled to the top of the brew just like Trump did, because it is always more fruitful to compare American politics to the rest of the hemisphere's politics and not to Europe's. I feel like that is a mistake that a lot of Americans make, and I think it's like, especially if you're a socialist, because all like the triumphs are in Europe. We think of American politics, and because it's a settler colony state of Americans, we think of it as a European country. It's not. America is a American country. It is, and its structure is like the structure of South American and Central American states. It's just richer than the rest of them.
Yeah.
But it's the same base and the same, like a lot of the same structures playing out. And so it makes sense that like our guys, the goofball-ups, the guys who are just these like just the asshole hanging out and who embodies a movement that he has no understanding of or control over, will be in Americas, and will be Trump and Bolsonaro.
Yeah.
Yeah, except now I think the concern is, and this is what, everyone has always said since, 2016, is the concern is what comes after Trump. Because now, I wish, but, my scary scenario is like Josh Hawley in the Senate, Tom Cotton at state, and Tucker Carlson in the executive. And suddenly you've got a counter-revolution on your hands. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, something terrible is coming happen, but I guess to my mind, I don't know, like it just seems
if Tucker is if he runs, he's unbeatable.
I disagree with that.
That's the thing standing right now.
I don't know. The thing is, I think it's happening no matter which party wins. It'll be consolidated by either party. It'll just have a different flavor and inflection, and like maybe a slightly different, like the misery will be displaced in slightly different directions, but it will be pain. It will be the reification of like a crisis capitalism that will be all about hyper exploiting in the core now, because there's less money, there's less juice for every squeeze. And so either way, Democrat or Republican, it will be an authoritarian nightmare.
Yeah.
And the political sphere will shrink and shrink. So it's like, I don't even know if there's a role for any kind of like coordinated, self-aware right-wing political movement. I don't think there's a room for any kind of political movement. And so all that's going to fill the gap are the technocrats and the buffoon who's on television and who pleases 51% of the people who bother to vote in these carnival-esque sideshow elections. But the actual mechanism,
I don't know.
are going to be enforced either way.
I don't know. I think that Cotton, Hawley, and Carlson are ideologues in ways that Trump isn't, right? And I think that they are very savvy. I don't think that Hawley is as talented as people think that he is, although he's talented on the dais in the Senate. But If he were to take over from before McConnell, that's a different story. I don't think that he's talented as like an executive figure personally. I don't know what his ambitions are, but someone like Carlson, who easily could run on Trump didn't do any of this, but I am, and I've been talking about it for 8 years or whatever, would be very easy to galvanize that. And he's very talented. I mean, look, hopefully I don't have to say that I don't agree with Tucker Carlson while I'm saying all of this. So I'm getting that out of the way now. But it's like, whether or not they can accomplish what they want to accomplish within the state and are able to capture the more, dissident or aggrieved actors in the bureaucracy. Like the idea that Cotton couldn't like clean house and get his guys in the State Department and in the agencies to do his insane Dr. Strangelove, whatever he has in mind for like blowing up the entire world. Like he's out of his fucking mind, that dude, right?
Oh yeah, no, he's like, a Strangelove figure for sure.
I mean, I think the idea that like first of all, the American ruling class, but then also within the state bureaucracy are aligned in any way is like absolutely ridiculous to read. And I don't think you guys are saying that, but I'm just saying for the record, like that is absolutely not the case right now. Like there are so many intra-party wars going on, inter-ruling class wars. And to some degree, you almost kind of want that because an aligned class is like almost worse. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want them to.
I think that's what's going to happen, though. It's going to, it could be that. I don't know. My hunch, like my male intuition, and like I said, I have been wrong about everything, and I will be wrong about everything in my life, as we all are. But I think that there will be a consolidation, and it will be a behind-the-scenes consolidation behind a single transpartisan, forget bipartisan, transpartisan sort of consensus that will act upon us, and that it will not require any kind of political movement to make that happen. It will occur just as a nature of capitalism consolidating in the face of declining profits.
Hold on, Mike.
Well, I mean, I think that was. Oh, Grace's camera got unplugged.
My camera got unplugged, but something weird that's happening is that I can't switch Windows back to House Party to plug it in. Hold on, let me see if I can do it. For some reason, you guys keep talking. I'm trying to figure this out. I can't get out of OBS. It won't let me like switch windows.
Brace is in the Black Lodge right now.
I'm in the Black Lodge. I'm writing our moderator to ask him what to do about this.
I do like the idea of you just yelling from the darkness. Like
I know.
You've stepped into like the black nether realm.
What you guys can't see right now is I can finally aim my gun at the camera. But keep talking. I'm going to figure this out.
Okay. Good luck. Godspeed.
I mean, I can also interject, but I'll get this. Just keep going. Go on. Because either I'd have to restart the stream, which I don't want to do.
Yeah. All right. Well,
actually, hold on. I'm just gonna stop it for 1 sec and then switch windows and then start it right back up.
Okay.